Hey everyone, it's Taste here from Blood of Kittens, and it's time to talk some brokenness right after this quick intro. Hey everyone, I am back to talk about Warhammer 40k, and this time the topic is going to be about how broken 9th edition is right now. And what I mean by this is not to be hyperbolic and sound like, oh my god, the game's terrible and we're all going to die. It's to say that there's some problems out there. And it all kind of started with Dark Eldar and is continuing much worse with AdMech. And if the rumors are to be true about orcs, it could even get a lot worse. So if everyone's not, up to speed with competitive play right now, AdMech, it's safe to say, are completely bonkers broken. Even though we had a little FAQ last week, the main components of brokenness have not been touched, and we can expect a greater, larger FAQ, similar to what they did with Dark Eldar, where they had a little quick FAQ within a couple weeks, and then they'll have a bigger, more substantial FAQ. So, under that, let's talk about how we can fix Warhammer 40k. And I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty of how, we can change this rule and do all this stuff, and we should do all this. No. This is about how we can do a temporary fix until a new edition comes out, which, from my clock, is only 2 years away. So it's not as far as you think it is, which is kind of scary. But with that said, let's see how we can kind of just do a little patching work to fix Warhammer 40k going forward. And the main thing is, of course, is Codex Creep, which is a continual problem with Warhammer 40k. It will never go away because Games Workshop wants to sell models, and they need the next best thing to be the next best thing. So with that in mind, I think what we need to talk about to fixing Warhammer 40k competitively is events. And events need to take a hard line. And what I mean by taking a hard line is that when a new codex drops, broken or not broken, in the case of AdMech being way broken and Sisters not being that broken, or maybe they are broken, but we don't know because AdMech are so superiorly broken that we just look and focus on them. But either way, events need to start enforcing rules on these codexes. And I'm not talking about, actually going into the codex and changing it. What I'm talking about is saying, hey, we are not going to allow you to play this new codex until Games Workshop does their job and fixes this new codex. So this means that events should enforceably say, hey, we're not going to play this codex for a month, new codex for a month, because we don't know what's broken and what needs to be fixed, or what's an error and what Games Workshop needs to go back and correct. This will put pressure on Games Workshop to make changes, because now people are not playing rules in tournaments and in events with the new books because they're waiting for Games Workshop to fix them. And this will maybe hopefully inspire Games Workshop to fix their game quicker when it comes to FAQs and that sort of thing, because by God, we're beyond the point where they're going to actually balance the codexes internally, even with playtesters and all that stuff. It's just been proven that it's not going to be the case, because we've heard stories that either playtesters are not catching these things, or more likely, playtesters are catching these problems, but Games Workshop is not listening. And whether the reason for they're not listening, we don't know. It could be marketing. They want to sell certain models. It could also just be simple fact that they have certain deadlines in which they have to reach. And so when they get the feedback, it just goes past that deadline. And they're going to be like, hey, we'll FAQ this down the road and don't worry about it. We're just going to release the book as it is. Now, I understand getting a ton of events to decide, hey, we're not going to play a new codex until FAQs are through, is a tall order to come by. So I have a better solution than just that. There's a way that we can all kind of enforce this. And the way we enforce this is if Games Workshop does it. Now, you're saying, well, Nick, you just said, hey, these events, they're the ones that should be doing it because they'll force Games Workshop. Well, lucky enough, Games Workshop now runs its own events in the GT circuit coming to America. Let's see, kind of like GT circuit coming to America this year. So there's going to be, 3 events this year? I'm sure there's going to be probably 9 or 10 next year, especially with, Nurgle's Rot being away. So, but for now we have 3 events, and they're hosted by Games Workshop through their event coordinator guy, /rules guy, I don't know what his real role is, but his name is Mike Branton. Here's a lovely drawing of him. So it's up to Mike Brandt. Mike Brandt is the actual one that can do this. He has the power to say, hey, we will have a moratorium on new codexes a month before an event. Or better yet, say we will have a moratorium on new codexes until at least 2 FAQs are released. Or better even yet than that, maybe Games Workshop can stop using the word FAQ and say, hey, FAQ is the first thing, because guess what FAQ stands for? Frequently asked questions. They're answered and not balances. So maybe Games Workshop should do something really cool and say, hey, the first thing's FAQ to have any, English errors we have or typos or whatever, that sort of thing. We have that in our FAQ, or actually answer questions people have. And then B, we have something we call, let's say, rules balancing. And that would be for the codex. So basically if you go to the Warhammer community site, you would see FAQ, and then below that you see balancing, whatever you want to call it, game balancing document, whatever. Bang? God, what is with my English today? Anyway, balance game document. We'll just call it that. That way, once that's released, your codex is good to go. Sure, this doesn't mean that. This means, of course, you've paid $50 for a new codex and it's completely useless within a couple months because they've changed wording and all that stuff. But at this point, like I said, we can't ask Games Workshop to do that. This is what I'm asking at the bare minimum Games Workshop to do, is have their GTs and their large events that they run have this standard. And guess what? If they have this standard, everyone else will follow. As we've already seen with the new terrain rules that they're putting down, we've already had videos and tons of people being like, okay, that's the standard. Regardless if you hate it or love it, that's the standard. And that's the power of a game developer dictating their IP instead of us doing it for them, because there's always going to be fractions. People are not going to want to listen to someone over here saying something about over here. So if we have Games Workshop do it, if we have Mike Brandt say, hey, GTs, this coming up, whatever, I think the first one is Dallas, I think, or is it New Orleans? Either way, that one is going to be the standard, saying, hey, we're not going to allow you to play the new AdMech Codex until we have the balance FAQ come through. So that's my hope and that's my dream. This is my spiel, and if you like this video and if you agree with me, please comment below and say, hey, this is a great idea, or you say this is a terrible idea. But I'm coming from a perspective that we can't have Games Workshop do what we hope and have a codex come out brilliantly and being completely balanced. It's just never going to happen. It's never happened. It's never going to happen. They have Codex Creep. It's just built into the game. Let it be. But you know what? If Games Workshop is satisfied with selling those broken things for 2 months and then having the balances come through and then having a real normal game, then I'm all for that, and just let it happen. So, like I said, like and subscribe, click bells, all that stuff, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.